Welcome everybody to another Collecting the King show. This one is going to be called The Last Farewell. And the reason for The Last Farewell is because we're going to be talking about this album here, which is Elvis in Concert. We're going to talk about the album, we're going to talk about the TV special, and we're going to talk about the concerts as well. My guest today is Steve Orlando. And everybody, you might remember Steve. Steve is kind of like my go-to authority whenever it comes to concerts. Tell everybody a little bit about your background again.
I guess this marks, since I'm about to be 45 years old, this marks my 35th year as being an Elvis fan. Started back in 1989, and in looking at the eras of the Elvis career, 50s, 60s, 70s, I really gravitated toward 70s concert Elvis. And by the time I was 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, I really just started memorizing Elvis's road schedule from 1969 to 1977. I used to get audience recording concert cassettes from England. That's how I started my collection of concert cassettes. And it got a little out of hand as a junior high and high school student. But I've retained, the thoughts of the different concerts in my head, of different highlights amongst the years, the highlights and, let's be honest, the lowlights of some of the Elvis live performances. Like riding a bicycle, that knowledge still happens to be in this head of the different shows and the details that happened at the various concerts across the country. I've known Robert for at least 30 years at this point. It's probably been about 30 years.
It's probably been more than that.
Maybe 31, 32 years, somewhere around there. And I would ask Robert about the latest concert release. And I remember you saying to me, what do you like the concerts? It's the same songs over and over again. You like more of the studio recordings. You don't really care for the live performances as much.
Right.
At least that's what your point of view was back in the 90s. So I think you're still a studio guy, and I'm still a concert guy. Well,
I've grown to appreciate the concerts, and probably more so now because of all the releases from FTD. Because somebody will put out another concert, and then after a while I was like, eh. But then every once in a while they'll put out a show, and then I'll listen to it, and it's like, wow, that was really a great show. But I think a lot of it has to do with, when I saw him in '72, it set the standard of all the shows for me. I mean, when you're there, it's entirely different. Even when I watched the Aloha live the first time, I liked it, but as I said on Johnny's channel, it was kind of, Elvis was stiff. He wasn't as loose. In '72, God, he was just so relaxed. He came out and he was ready to kick ass, and he was great. So that's what I based it on. But I've grown to appreciate the concerts a lot more than I used to, for sure. Okay, so first of all, let me read to you the history of the CBS TV special. This is some information I got off of the internet. Elvis in Concert is the 1977 television special starring Elvis Presley. It was Elvis's third and final TV special, following Elvis, the NBC TV special, and Aloha from Hawaii. It was filmed during Presley's final tour in the cities of Omaha, Nebraska on June 19, 1977, and Rapid City, South Dakota on June 21st of 1977. Now, it was broadcast on CBS on October 3rd, 1977, 2 months after Presley's death. It was transmitted by the BBC in the United Kingdom on June 9th of 1978. And you had a comment about that.
Yes. So the ratings, Elvis in Concert won the ratings game that night on October 3rd, 77. The special earned a 33.0 Nielsen rating, and they estimate that 24.1 million households had Elvis in Concert on, which is no small number.
No, and it makes you wonder, are those numbers greater than Aloha?
Well, it's like comparing an apple and an orange, because the numbers we're hearing about the Aloha viewership is worldwide numbers.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And obviously Elvis in Concert.
Well, what about the NBC special then?
Great question. That's something that we can research, or please comment if you have the Nielsen data from the '68 special. Please put it in the comments.
Yeah, let us know which one had the bigger views. I would predict it was Elvis in Concert, because of the death and everything that happened.
Because he had left the building for the last time.
Yeah, I think I think it probably got more views, I think. It was directed by Dwight Hemian, and the music was conducted by George Gershwin and his orchestra. Unlike the majority of Elvis's programs, it is unlikely to be commercially released on home video, and to this day is only available in bootleg form. This is because it showed Elvis near the end of his life, when he was in poor health due to various hereditary ailments and over the use of many prescribed medications. Much of his performance reflects his poor health.
I think everybody would agree that the Rapid City show was a stronger performance than the Omaha show. Obviously, the standout performance in Omaha certainly was How Great Thou Art. And with Unchained Melody, that didn't even make it to either the TV special, nor did it make it to the LP.
Right. But isn't it on, you just showed me the video, isn't it on that video?
Well, the first time we see Unchained Melody, this is jumping ahead, the first time we saw the footage was on the Great Performances tape that came out in 1990. And toward the end of this tape is the first time we saw a video of Elvis behind the piano singing Unchained Melody.
Unchained Melody. So it was on that. Was it not in This Is Elvis, the movie?
No, Unchained Melody in the original cut only showed Are You Lonesome Tonight and My Way from Rapid City.
Oh, okay.
Then there's the extended version of This Is Elvis that featured Love Me from Omaha and I believe My Way from Rapid City.
That's interesting. So that would explain how Baz Luhrmann got that footage, because the Elvis movie was Warner Brothers and This Is Elvis was put out by Warner Brothers. So he probably easily had no problem getting that shot, that piece of Unchained Melody from there. It's on here, right?
Correct.
But who put this out?
Well, this particular tape is from Buena Vista Home Video.
Buena Vista, isn't that Disney?
I think so.
It is.
Yeah, it sure looks like it's the Magic Kingdom on the symbol here.
Wow. I saw it when it aired in 77. It was a very awkward experience for me, because it wasn't like Aloha from Hawaii, because he was alive, and the 68 comeback, which I watched both of those when they aired too. But I remember when it aired, it was this terrible kind of sad experience. I had already seen Elvis in 77, only a couple months, I think, before. Was it before Rapid City? Or
yeah, May 1st or May 2nd.
Right.
I saw him.
So I saw him, so I already knew what he looked like. I knew he wasn't in the best of health, and I knew he didn't look that great. But I was just like every other fan. I was just thrilled to death to see Elvis Presley live. So when he died, the album came out, and I don't know, it was weird feeling, because the album, Elvis, this picture here, maybe you could touch on this. This is the photo that they used, but this is not from either of those two shows.
It's definitely from the May to June 75 tour. I believe that was taken June 1st, and that's the evening show, 1975 in Huntsville, I believe.
So they have a photo of him from 75 on the front, and the back is...
That's June of 72. That picture, looking at the microphone, confirms it's June of 72. And
is it Chicago?
That could be Chicago, June 17th, but he also wore the blue on tour suit in Milwaukee a couple days earlier.
Right.
So it's either from Milwaukee or Chicago, June of 72.
And since we're on the subject, this is open. So these photos here, where are these from?
Los Angeles, California, at the LA Forum, May 11th, 1974, and this is the evening show.
Okay.
And I think Led Zeppelin was in the audience that day.
I heard about that. The album was released, from what I read online, on the same day as the concert, or the airing of the TV special. It could have been, I don't know, because I watched the special and I bought the album afterwards, so maybe it did come out on that same day, I don't know. In my opinion, it was not a great show. But, there were still highlights, still good memories that I had from seeing him in 77 and 76. Those of you who know the album well, Vernon is on the album with his farewell or whatever, thank you to the fans. At the end of the broadcast, they show that. It just left this really empty feeling. For you, it's probably different, because you look at it more from a historical standpoint.
I think there's definitely some merit to it, because for the fans that were around during Elvis's career, you had the drip, drip, drip of product, and you were waiting and anticipating the rumors for the next album. Me becoming a fan after Elvis's death, I had the plethora of the whole catalog available to me at one time. You know, with a waterfall of information coming at me at once. So it's definitely a different perspective, and so I appreciate, for the fans that have been around, you know, a long time, the different perspective that you have being an Elvis fan compared to my perspective. So in terms of my being a younger fan and getting acquainted with Elvis in concert, for me, the first taste of it was on This Is Elvis.
This Is Elvis, right.
Where we saw Are You Lonesome Tonight and My Way.
Right.
And this is the movie that made me become an Elvis fan.
And I saw that in the movie theater at the Esquire Theater, downtown Chicago, when it premiered. And
then later found out that there was an extended version of this, which then we got the footage of Love Me from Omaha.
And that came out on video on a different package than that, because the first time that came out, it was in a bubble, kind of this thick bubble. The one, the Walt Disney movies, how they had that kind of bubble pack,
a thicker, larger.
This Is Elvis, when it was first released, came out in a pack like that, and it had a banner that said bonus footage or extra extended version.
So that was my first foray into the Elvis in concert footage, and then shortly after I got the actual cassette tape, so now I could hear the contents of the double album, and then through being a fan. Probably around 1992 is when I finally got my copy of a bootleg version of the TV special.
I think everybody has that now. Yeah. Every Elvis fan, real Elvis fan, has got a bootleg. I got one of those too, somewhere.
So I probably got this tape in 1992. And then around 1999, what became advertised was a 2 VHS box set, not very fancy. Matter of fact, the VHSs don't even have any stickers on it. This is all it is. I remember this cost me $175.
What?
To get a VHS tape of the Omaha show, the Rapid City show, and the TV special again. This cost $175.
Let me see this. So are these all the shows that were recorded?
Yes, this is from start to finish, the Omaha show, the Rapid City show, and also the TV special is on these 2 tapes.
Wow. I never even saw that. I've never even heard of that. Now let's talk about this. Why don't you explain how you got this? I think this is not an RCA promotional poster, even though it does say RCA at the bottom. Tell the story of where this monster came from.
This poster is about 4 feet tall, 3.5 feet wide. One night, it must have been 2007, I was searching eBay, looking at the auctions that were about to end, and I'm scrolling, and I see this with only maybe a half hour or hour left in the auction. And I thought to myself, I've never seen anything like this before. And look how large the poster is. I gotta have it. So, of course, I bid in the last minute. I won it for about $47, if memory serves me.
Wow.
And I had it rolled up in the original tube for many years, and finally, 3 years ago, I finally framed it. Supposedly, it hung in the fall of '77 at a Rose Records somewhere in the San Francisco Bay area in California.
The Elvis in Concert album was a 2-record set released by RCA Records in October of 1977 in conjunction with the television special of the same name. Videotaped and recorded in June of 1977, both the special and album were broadcast and released on October 3rd. The album peaked at number 5 on the Billboard chart in late 1977. The single, My Way and America the Beautiful, was released the same day, 6 weeks after Elvis's death. This is My Way, but this one says America, not America the Beautiful. And the thing about this is, the America the Beautiful is, I believe, the incorrect title of that song. But they didn't know that, so when they put it out as America the Beautiful. And then someone said, hey, wait a minute, that song's just called America. So then they got rid of that picture sleeve and went with this one, America. And oddly enough, they did it pretty quick because this one here is the more common of the two. So the America the Beautiful sleeve is actually pretty rare. I think I've only had it a couple times in my whole life. So anyway, that's a collector's note. America the Beautiful is the rarer of the two. The catalog number on the first pressing of the album was APL2 2587. It was the first Elvis RCA LP release that had a special custom designed blue label. And this was the first time RCA did this. The only other one was Legendary Performer. That was the black label with the gold trim around it and all the gold lettering. But you'll notice the word Elvis looks more like a signature, even though it's not a facsimile signature of Elvis's signature. I also remember seeing this label used in other countries. I believe in the UK, and those of you from the UK that watch the show, you can verify that. Then there was a second pressing of the LP, which had the same exact labels, but the catalog number was changed to CPL2 2587. 1980 was the CPL. That was the reissue with the basically the same label. And then the one that followed, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is the CPL2 with the black label, and that followed in 82. Okay. So there were 2 years. They were 2 years apart. Elvis in Concert was certified gold and platinum on October 14th and triple platinum on August 1st, 2002 by the RIAA. And what's that, Steve?
Everybody knows that it's the...
everybody knows except me, right?
Recording Industry Association of America.
So that's pretty cool. It sold well. It went gold and platinum. It says on October 14th, so I'm assuming that means of 77.
And the definition of a gold record is 500,000 units sold?
Right. Yeah. And then it went triple platinum on August 1st, which means it sold 3 million.
It reached 3 million, apparently.
Wow. Not bad for a record that hasn't been in release for what? How many years? Elvis in Concert never was really issued on vinyl much past that 82, I would imagine. It did come out on cassette. Like, here's the cassette of it. Elvis in Concert, the cassette, and Elvis in Concert,
the A-track.
The A-track, yeah.
I purchased my cassette of Elvis in Concert around 1990, and by 1992-93, I purchased my CD of Elvis in Concert. So that's what factors into that triple platinum, I would venture to say. It
had to be the CD then. Okay, so now let's talk about promotional and bonus items. Just prior to its release, I believe that this promotional item was available about the month before, and that would be this here. And that is this little thing here. It's called a reservation certificate. And it's got the picture of the album cover on it. It's actually perforated because you can, I don't want to do it, but it folds right there. The ticket is right here. It looks this way. And then on the back of the picture of Elvis, if you keep that and rip this off, you even get that little thank you notice on the back from Elvis and the Colonel and Vernon. I just had a real problem with this thank you. It was just so weird because I think it was maybe the first time that I realized that Elvis was a marketing tool, that they were going to market him no matter what, even though he was dead.
It is possible that these were printed prior to August 16th, 77, though. That is a possibility.
I remember seeing it in September. That's when I remember. It was in the store. And like I told people before, you know, the stuff that was at the record stores, they were at the counter. Like, you would go and buy your record, and there would be, you know, things for Elvis albums, things for Elton John, you know, Led Zeppelin, just odds and ends of these little promotional things. And that's exactly what this was. But the interesting thing about it is it's saying that the album is coming. And I do remember getting one of these prior to the showing of the special and the release. That's a little bonus item that came with the LP. So if you're a completist like I am, you want to have that with your copy of Elvis in Concert. And then inside the album came this I don't know what you call it, flyer. I guess it's a flyer, but
a catalog document.
Kind of yeah, you're right. It is kind of like an RCA large catalog type thing, because they used to have those little cards, right? That had the releases on them and stuff and that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, an 8x10 photo. Also, there were they were perforated and they were narrow and horizontal, that had the entire Elvis catalog, and they released one every year.
Oh yeah, the catalog.
The record catalog.
The RCA record catalog. So at this point now, I wanted to talk about one of the rarest and most valuable Elvis records, and that would be the Elvis in Concert reissue CPL2 on the black label. I remember with Jerry, we decided we didn't want to show the album cover because that didn't really make any sense. The key to it was the label. And you can see right there, there's the black label, and it has the CPL2 catalog number on it. But it was so rare that we put it on the cover of the book, and we usually would do that. We would put new finds and recent discoveries on the covers of the books, so that, you know, it would make for an interesting cover. And of course, the blue vinyl, Aloha from Hawaii, which one of my viewers, Rick Davis, is the proud owner of. But anyway, the Elvis in Concert black label. Wow, what a mystery that thing is. The Elvis in Concert black label reissue is one of the rarest and most sought after of all of Elvis's releases. The biggest mystery surrounding this release is the fact that it had the same CPL2 2587 catalog number as the second pressing, but for some unknown reason had the more common black RCA dog near top labels instead of the original custom design labels. And those black labels usually went on reissues for any album that came out earlier, like when it was orange label, then it went to tan, and then in '76 they went to the black dog near top. And when I say dog near top, that means that nipper is not in the center, but near the top of the label. So why Elvis in Concert would be on that black label is a big mystery. My theory and Jerry's theory is that it was probably a RCA Record Club release. That's the only explanation for it being so scarce. I only know of 3 copies, and the years went by, and the years went by, and then I realized...
You hadn't seen one in a while.
I hadn't seen one in quite a while, you know? And then that's when we started doing some research on it and realized that all the people that we knew, all the collectors we knew, nobody had it. Nobody even knew it existed. There's not even that many of the CPL blues, right? To be honest.
I've only seen one of those.
I've seen about maybe 5, but you know, in all the years. But yeah, very, very odd. So that black label is absolutely one of the rarest reissues of any of Elvis's albums. You've never seen one, right?
Of course not.
Yeah. So, you know, and I know you hunt like Craven the Hunter.
I've been known to seek some Elvis vinyl, that's for sure.
Do you have that instinct like I do? Like you can walk in a room and all of a sudden you know where the records are, the Elvis records are?
Oh, yeah.
I've got the same thing.
Got my sonar.
I've done that a couple times recently. Steve, I'm going to turn this over to you. Let's talk about the concerts that were used for... that were filmed for the special and that they took, made the albums from.
Okay. Well, before talking about the actual performances, how did we get to CBS wanting to do the documentary? The Colonel had 3 different versions of the story. We don't know what the truth is because 1977, Elvis is in no condition to be on a TV special. So one version of the story is... well, I gave CBS such a ridiculous figure, and they came back saying that they were willing to pay it. I had to give this opportunity to Elvis. The other version of the story is, well, Elvis always lives up to a challenge, and we have to keep him challenged, so that's why we're doing this TV special. And then the third version of the story is, Elvis wanted to do the TV special. And out of those 3 choices, who knows what the truth is. But what we do know is the Colonel was actually very displeased with NBC, and that's why NBC did not do this special. The idea was, after 1973's Aloha from Hawaii, the Colonel approached NBC to do a follow-up special after 1973, and for whatever reason, NBC passed. So that's why the Colonel decided to reach out to CBS through the William Morris Agency. And once it was determined, hey, let's see if CBS would actually want to do the TV special, Smith Hemian Productions was a very well-known production unit of many variety shows, Barbra Streisand TV specials, award shows like the Emmys, I believe. So this was top-notch people getting involved in this project. And actually, they went to see Elvis in Chicago to scope out the sense of the Elvis concert atmosphere. And Gary Smith's response was, you know, Elvis, his voice was fair. You know, he gave a good show, but he's overweight. But they were amazed about the electricity in the audience at the Chicago Stadium. So, okay, we can make a TV special out of this, is really what they came down to. And when CBS said, okay, we will pay that $750,000 fee, of course, split 50-50 between the Colonel and Elvis. And as we know, Elvis spent money as fast as he made it. So Elvis needed that $375,000.
So was that like after, when they went to the Chicago show, which one was it, 76?
No,
or
it would have been either May 1st or 2nd, 77.
77.
Not sure
okay.
which one of the two shows the producers saw.
Okay.
They picked Omaha, and they also picked Rapid City. The reason they picked Rapid City was that was the first time Elvis would ever appear in Rapid City. And they felt that the audience members wouldn't have had an opportunity to be disappointed about Elvis's appearance because they would just be excited to have him in their city.
There's footage of Elvis getting some kind of an award, or is he giving something to the girl?
So the mayor gave Elvis a plaque. Thank you for being the first concert in our new hall. But the more touching and more important item that I think Elvis appreciated more was from the Sioux Nation of Native Americans. Monique Brave was about 10 years old, and she presented Elvis with the Medallion of Life.
That's right.
Which is a serious gift. And then there's been rumors that the show In Between in Lincoln, Nebraska on June 20th, that was allegedly supposed to be recorded by RCA and CBS. But we don't believe that happened. It is a damn shame that they did not record the Lincoln, Nebraska show. What
other kind of promotional stuff was there when the concert was aired, or when it was being shot, or anything like that?
Well, some of the footage from inside the hall famously had the tables of souvenirs that were being sold, the buttons, the picture books, the posters. But one piece that appeared on the TV special, which I've never seen in the flesh, are those imitation straw hats that typically were for Las Vegas opening and summer festival and whatnot. But they actually made Elvis in Concert straw hats with the CBS logo, and several people of these interviews of the fans that you see prior to the music, we can see that in the video of the TV special, and that would be probably an even more rare item than a Las Vegas straw hat.
And it just so happens that we happen to have one of the hats that were from Las Vegas, and here's one here. This is from Al DeVorn's collection of stuff, but it was like this, right? It was basically a hat like this, probably the same company, because if you remember, we kind of looked it up about where these things were made, and it was in Scranton, Pennsylvania,
I recall
is where these hats were made. So it was probably the same manufacturer and everything, but this is a real official summer festival hat, and what's on the back, you can even see it has the International Hotel logo on there as well. So it would be like this, right?
Between Omaha on June 19th and Indianapolis on June 26th, they were probably distributing these imitation straw hats with the Elvis in Concert band
that was
with the CBS eyeball.
It was a good idea. It was a good promotion. And I have seen pictures, folks, but I've never actually seen those hats themselves.
Going into the concerts, Omaha was the third date of the tour. Elvis opened up in Springfield, Missouri on June 17th. To date, no audience recording has surfaced of that show, so I couldn't tell you if it was a good, fair, or a poor show. We do have video footage and audio footage of the next night in Kansas City. That was a bad show. Elvis was very puffy. That was the last time that Elvis wore the King of Spades jumpsuit, and he looked like a stuffed sausage. It was a very tight suit. Matter of fact, as he was about to sing Big Boss Man, Elvis said, "This is a new suit, and it's slightly nub." I don't know what the word nub means. And it wasn't a new suit. He bought that suit in 1974, but long story short, that's what he said. So, unfortunately, what was plaguing him in Kansas City continued on in Omaha. Elvis was very puffy in the face. He was lethargic. His voice actually seemed kind of childlike and unsure of itself. And he certainly must have been under the influence of some sort of downer prescription. for the Rapid City show 2 days later, he rallied. He seemingly lost 10 pounds. Apparently he was taking more of that, his favorite appetite suppressant called iaminide. I believe I'm pronouncing it correctly. And sure enough, when Gary Smith, the producer, saw Elvis 2 days later in Rapid City, it looked like he lost 10 pounds, his face wasn't as puffy, and he put on a much more energetic performance. The quality of the songs in Rapid City were much better. He sounded very good. The problem was his banter in between songs. He couldn't talk. He sounded like Mel Tillis, you know. And in fact, during the band introductions, introducing JD and the Stamps, he was trying to tell a story about how him and JD went back to the old days, early 1950s. But Elvis even said, you know, I can sing, but I can't talk. Going back to that Lincoln show in between, it was the perfect balance. Listening to the audience recording of the Lincoln, Nebraska show, he sounded energetic. The banter in between the songs, very coherent and funny. He had a good sense of humor. He even said toward the beginning of the show to the audience, hey, last night we were in Omaha. And, you know, were any of you in Omaha last night? And then he said, well, we're probably just going to do the same show tonight, so enjoy it.
He was telling the truth.
Yeah.
So my question would be, and I'm sure other people want to know, how much of those how much of that footage was used, and was there anything in particular that wasn't used?
That's the mystery about Lincoln. Was Lincoln meant to be recorded? I've heard two stories that, yes, it was meant to be recorded, and one of two things happened. Either there was an issue with the building not wanting the CBS cameras in, or Elvis wasn't feeling well in Lincoln, and he asked the CBS crew, hey, would you please not film tonight? I don't know what the truth is, folks. If you have any insight on this subject, we would love to hear it. So what ended up on the 2 LP set was a very good sample of both Omaha and Rapid City. Now what ended up on the TV special was certainly more heavily Rapid City, because those were the stronger performances.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, watching that show at the time, and even the bootlegs and stuff, you could tell it almost looks like it's all one show. If there is editing done, it's fantastic. I mean, if they edited performances together, is that what they did? I mean,
surely,
or was it just the Rapid City show that was shown on TV?
No. The band wore their white suits both in Rapid City and Omaha, so it was very easy for them to edit to make it seem like it was one continuous concert. Funny thing that happened that some of you fans will know, in Rapid City, Tony Brown's piano was bothering Elvis's ear during CC Rider, and Elvis actually stopped the concert. He's like, hold on, wait a minute, had the band stop. And then he started singing CC Rider again, well, I'm going away, baby, and then the band got in. That's why in the version of the CBS TV special, we see CC Rider be edited. It started with Elvis singing in Rapid City, and then when Elvis was doing the guitar strumming in the middle of the song, that was Omaha, because they had to cover up for the fact that Elvis stopped the song in Rapid City.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Those of you know I'm a filmmaker too, so I've always wondered about editing, because I've edited almost all my films. From an editing standpoint, it had to, I'm just thinking just now, it had to be a hell of a challenge to try to, cut together two shows to make it look like it's one. Did he wear the same suit? In both shows?
The sundial.
It's funny because when I saw the show the very first time on TV, I thought it was one show. I know people said, oh, it's from two, but for some reason it just didn't register that I was possibly watching an edit of two shows combined.
I believe what happened was they left Kansas City the morning of the 19th, flew to Lincoln, set up shop in the Lincoln Inn, was the hotel that Elvis and the crew and the band stayed at, and they drove to Omaha to do the show that night. And then after the show, I think Elvis did know that the show was not that great. And by the time they got back to the Lincoln Inn in the early morning hours of June 20th, it is said that in Elvis's suite, you had Elvis's cousin Billy Smith, you had Charlie Hodge, and somehow Joe Gershow was summoned to Elvis's room. And Elvis said, so Joe Gershow, Maestro, I believe is what Elvis always called Joe. Maestro, how'd I do? And Joe told him the truth. Elvis, it was a fair dress rehearsal. And Elvis nodded his head. He's like, yeah, you're right. So he really knew he needed to step it up for the next show or shows that they were going to film.
So my question is, what was the intention? I mean, obviously, after Elvis died, things had to have changed. I mean, they set this whole thing up, and CBS was on board. They said, okay, we're going to do the show. They must have had a projection as to when this was going to air, and of course, because they had to have a target for the editing and for all that stuff, they had the possibility of a third concert that they were looking at filming, which might have delayed the editing process and the production process. So the big question that always enters my mind was it always planned for October 3rd, or was it rushed because of Elvis's death?
Right. Well, I have a little tidbit that isn't directly in response to that question, but it's in the same realm.
Okay.
One of the people working for CBS for this special was a lady, and I believe she's still alive. Annette Wolf is her name. And she, I think, was in charge of a lot of the production of the fan interviews and the video of the crowd before the show. August 1977, Los Angeles, CBS Studios. And this is Annette Wolf's words herself. We were in the middle of editing. The many TV screens showed different cuts of pictures of Elvis from both concerts, as all of the other films that were shot in the 2 weeks in June. Here in the cutting room, we could see if the material did live up to the expectations. It was clear how tired Elvis looked at some of the recordings. We looked at the scene from backstage when the telephone rang. I heard a voice telling, "This is Parker. Elvis is dead." Then the line disconnected. Everybody in the room felt something had happened. They all just waited for me to say something. I began to cry, but told them, "Elvis has died." In the very moment I was telling the words, I was looking at the pictures of Elvis on the screen. Suddenly, all the screens froze. So they were actively editing the Elvis in Concert special on August 16th, 77.
Okay. All right. So there's a very good chance then, even though it's not a direct answer, that this is an indication that they could have been planning October. If Elvis hadn't died, do you think it would have been a success? Knowing that all the bad press he's gotten, and the book Elvis What Happened just came out.
I don't think 24 million American households would have watched that.
I don't think so either. Yeah. I don't think so either. And I think, if anything, it would have tarnished his image even more. Because once people saw how he looked, and a lot of people who were just ordinary people who were not Elvis fans had heard Elvis was getting fat, had heard all these things. There was a National Lampoon magazine that was put out.
July of 76. I have a copy of that.
With a fat Elvis, or a cartoon of a fat Elvis with a suit.
The jumpsuit bursting at the seams.
The suit is bursting at the seams. Yeah. That's what the average public was seeing. Had that concert gone out and Elvis was still alive, I think it would have hurt him. That's what I think, because people would, to the general public, not the fans. Fans, like I said, the fans loved him. They don't care what he looked like. I know, I was there. I didn't care.
Well, there's the theory that that's part of the reason why Elvis died. Is had the fans started saying, "Elvis, you can be doing better. We're not going to come to your concerts as much." If there were more seats that went unsold at the concert tours, would there have been a point that Elvis would have said, "Okay, I'm going to take 6 months, get myself straightened out, and then I'm going to come back and just wait and watch me." And it's unfortunate that that never happened.
I'm going to read an album review. AllMusic.com gave the album a negative review, but conceded that, quote, "This album is not a standout Elvis concert. What it is, however, is a vitally important piece of Elvis lore," end quote. Their review went on to say that the record is Elvis Presley's least effort as well as his last.
It's true, especially the cuts from Omaha. And again, I go back to the fact that, gosh, I wish they would have recorded Lincoln, Nebraska.
Probably the biggest thing about the album to me was it reminded me a lot of the 76 or 77 show that I saw. And I think I've told you this before when we've talked about that show. The memory I have of it is not really vivid because of the fact I was so greatly disappointed. I'd have to agree with AllMusic.com. It was not his best effort, and it was, it was okay. It was a sad way to go out, and it reminds me of the end of the Baz Luhrmann Elvis movie. That moment when you see him at the piano, that's how I feel about the Elvis in Concert album. It's all right, but it's not one of my favorites by no means, and I don't think it's one of the best concert albums at all.
Right.
So that's kind of that's my review, folks. The big question is it ever going to be released to the public?
Absolutely not. To Elvis Presley Enterprises, Elvis died after Aloha from Hawaii, and they don't want to show anything post-73.
I know, but the time has gone by. You can find it on YouTube. They've actually released versions of it where they've cleaned it up and the audio is better, and it's not like you can't find it. It is out there. I just recently watched a version of it, not all the way through, but I remember watching a version of it when somebody had announced on Facebook that, hey, you can watch Elvis in Concert, and they put the link up. And I went on YouTube, and there it was. I finally got a word from somebody I would say knows what they're talking about, and that would be Ernst Jorgensen. Johnny B and I one time at the Peabody Hotel, and I remember asking him, are they ever going to release it? We were collecting all the Follow That Dream CDs. And the time we asked him this was about the time that they had run the gambit of all of the catalog, except for maybe 2 albums, Welcome to My World and Elvis in Concert. They don't want the video, but what about the record? Or what about the recordings? Why can't you just put out the Elvis in Concert CD? He said, nope, can't do it.
I have I'd like to touch on a controversy.
Okay.
Vernon's comments at the end of the special.
Okay.
Where he referenced that the footage we had just seen was from Elvis's last concert. So you would run into fans saying, oh no, there's a video of Elvis's last concert. I saw it. Well, no, it's from his 5th and 7th to last concert. Oh no, it's his last concert. Vernon said it was the last concert. Mm-hmm. No, Vernon was mistaken. It's funny, they used 2 different takes. Mm-hmm. On the TV special, Vernon says, you've seen Elvis's last live performance that Elvis ever done on stage. The version on the album, it's a little different. You've just seen the last live performance of Elvis on stage. So there's at least 2 takes of, of Elvis's dad sitting in the office with the mounds of mail. Speaking of the mounds of mail that are in there, you get the feeling that was probably filmed in September of '77 after all the mail had come in, the sympathy cards from around the world. Mm-hmm. Apparently, those were just props.
No.
And I didn't tell you about this before we went on.
No.
I wanted to spring that on you, to get your reaction. Yes. Well, they weren't props, but they were regular fan correspondents that arrived when Elvis was still alive. But a gentleman in Knoxville, Tennessee, Ross Bagwell, he got a call from Gary Smith, the producer of the TV special, the day Elvis died. Gary told Ross, I need you to get to Memphis right away and film Elvis's dad giving this little, eulogy for his son that we're going to use for the TV special, but we got to get it filmed within the next day or 2. Mm-hmm. Well, the idea is to film Vernon in the office with all the sympathy mail, which Vernon references, and thank you for all the cards and the letters. But the cards and the letters that were sitting next to him were correspondence from earlier in August, July, June, April, May. So it was used as a prop. And so that apparently Vernon, he was really fresh in his grief because it was probably filmed August 18th, August 19th. Yeah, he was
pretty emotional. You could see it.
Yeah, it was right after Elvis passed. And it was this guy from Knoxville that got summoned to Memphis to do the filming of that message. I
did not know that. So, folks, you heard it here. Maybe you knew it, maybe you didn't. But that's interesting, Steve. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. Steve, thank you very much for joining us again.
Thank you for the invitation.
And I appreciate all the information. I knew you were going to tell me a lot of stuff that I didn't know, and I'm sure you told everybody else a lot of stuff they didn't know.
I hope so.
So, real quick, I just wanted to say, just a reminder, I am selling on eBay. I mentioned this before, and if you want to go and check out what I'm selling on eBay, I'm under Collecting the King is the seller name. So that's one word, Collecting the King. And go to eBay, put that in, and you'll find whatever I have up for sale. I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff, and I'm putting stuff on all the time. So if you like the show, hit the subscribe button, and then be sure and tap on the bell so we can let you know about future shows. And by the way, I forgot to mention, this is our 40th show. So you were actually here for number 40.
I'm excited.
So
thank you.
I'm amazed we got that far. So thank you everybody for joining us.
We're out of here.